My goal was to show how people think about the future. Psychology has tried to explain behavior by looking at the past. This borrows the model of causality from the natural sciences, because causality just moves forward in time and the cause comes before the effect. But in psychology, humans are able to think into the future, and that relates back to the present, and then we can change our behavior. So the present is altered based on the future by means of our thinking about it. And that requires a different and more complicated model. Now, when psychologists have gotten around to studying thinking about the future, usually they start with predicting. Let's study how people predict. Are they accurate? What mistakes do they make? And that's interesting. We've learned a lot from that. But we wanted to shift the emphasis to say that when people think about the future, they're more preparing for action. So it's not just predicting, like, will I get married someday, or who will win the election, or who will win the football game, but rather, what do I need to prepare to do, even starting now, to get to the future that I want. So for the researchers, I wanted them to conceptualize the future, not just conceptualize thinking about the future, not just trying to say, I think this is what's going to happen, but to make plans for events. Indeed, in our research we found that 3/4 of the time, most of the thoughts, when people say they're thinking about the future, they are planning. So they're not just trying to predict what's going to happen tomorrow or next year, but they're designing steps of what do I have to do to make this happen. And this is highly adaptive, and this is something we can do that other species can hardly do at all, mostly not even any bit at all. I also wanted to emphasize they should think about the future as a set of possibilities, not as a single road that there's something going to happen. And predicting, the future as a single road that has a long history, from fortune tellers to Calvinist theology to philosophical determinism. I think, well, the future is just as determined as the past. But when people actually think about the future, they think about multiple possibilities. This could happen or that could happen. That's the reason you need to make a plan, is because this can happen and that can happen, and it's much better that this happens and not that that happens. So planning is extremely pragmatic. So building on William James's classic line that thinking is for doing, and applying it to thinking about the future very much for preparing for doing. And then that's what I wanted for the researchers. For the practitioners, I wanted to tell them, we found there seemed to be 2 steps, and both of them are important for reaching your goals and getting things done. And so when you're working with people in coaching or therapy or whatever, you can see, are they really doing both parts? The first one, and this corresponds to what we found in the research literature before us, people are very optimistic and positive. When you say, think about the future, oh, it's going to be wonderful, and people predict all these positive things, and it's going to be much better for me than for other people. But then when our studies, we made people think about the future for a few minutes, and then had to make some decisions, then they're very cautious. Well, if they're optimistic, they should be willing to take chances, because optimism means, oh, everything will work out fine. But no, instead, after thinking about the future for a few minutes, they were cautious. So what we came around to is that there are a couple different steps in thinking about the future. The first one is to think, what do I want to happen? This is a very positive one. This is a goal. This is the best case. This is what I would love. But then you have to be realistic to how will I get there, and what do I need to do now to alter my behavior to get to what I want in the future. If I want to have a career of some sort, maybe I need to start training now, I need to do well in school, I need to get letters of recommendation, I need to learn statistics or whatever, long ahead of before you get to your goal, so that you make it possible. People who do both things have a much better chance of reaching their goals than people who only do one or who don't do any of them at all.